This video is about the harvest, Jesus' harvest. And so while I was praying, I entered into this vision. And I was beside Jesus, and he was standing in a large field. And the entire field represented his harvest of souls. But they came in the form of corns that needed to be harvested. And say I'm looking at the whole world, the entire harvest, and in the first two rows, just the first two rows of many rows, were farmers. And Jesus was looking at the harvest, and he was saying that he was talking about the workers, the farmers in the field, his workers, that he was like, the amount of harvest, I don't have enough hands for the harvest. So to make sure, and if I just send the farmers out to just uproot all the corns, this was just a harvest of corns. If they uprooted all the corns, they're going to spoil, because I have to uproot, then prune it. I have to uproot and take off all the bristles, take off all the things, and put the corn in the storehouse in the right way. I can't just uproot them and put them like that down, because then they would rotten, they would spoil. They have to uproot them, they have to strip them down, take care of them, and then put them in the storehouse in the proper way so that they can store. So as I was looking out, I saw the farmers. They were working so hard just in the first two rows of the field spread out. And the sun was beating down on them. And so the Lord was saying, they have to take breaks. I cannot keep them in the field for too long, because they get tired. So they will farm, and they will farm real hard to harvest this, and they will prune those, and then they have to take a break, and then I'll exchange them out. And so, for example, I know like of a missionary, like he goes, this is not in a vision, this is just an example. He's from Australia, and he goes all over the world, and he does missionary work for Jesus Christ. And then he'll do it out of the year. He would travel for 6 months, and then for 6 months he would be home. But while he was on the mission field, like there was an emergency situation back at home, and the Lord sent him home. And when he got home, his spouse died. So when I was in this vision with Jesus, and he was telling me that he couldn't keep the workers out in the field too long. He said they need to rest, they're tired, they need to recuperate, and they'll get worn out. So I have to give them breaks. I can't just overuse the hands that are available for me to use right now. So he was showing me, like, based on the workers that he had a map and a chart of how he was going to get all the crops to be harvested. And so the scripture came to my mind when Jesus talked about that the harvesters are few. Pray to the Father that he may send more harvesters. So I was left with Jesus, and at the end of the vision, I was standing next to Jesus, watching the farmers work so hard to harvest, seeing that they were getting tired, and that they could not harvest. It was going to take time for them to harvest, because while the corn was still in the earth, it would stay alive. But if it was uprooted and they were not able to harvest it properly, that the corn, they would rotten. And so the whole field was spread out, that was left, that still needed to be harvested. And these were young, beautiful corns, like they didn't have any rot on them. So they needed to be harvested properly so that they could maintain the life in them. And so Jesus was showing me, like, the length of the work that still needs to be done. He said the reason why the time is not now is because there's not enough workers in the field, and the workers that I do have, I don't want to burn them out. So I want to say this. In another conversation that I had with Jesus outside of this vision, that he was showing me how when that Christian was using like the Ouija board, like when they were trying to put Jesus and map the return of Jesus Christ, it was like a form of witchcraft, a form of sorcery. Like our sorcerer would go and use the Ouija board and use the Ouija board, and for the Ouija board to speak to them. That Christians that were putting him on a date and a time, looking at all the dates through history and trying to map his return, it was like them practicing witchcraft. It was a form of witchcraft. They were putting Jesus' return on a Ouija board and try to decipher when he was going to return, that it was an occultic practice. It was satanic and it was demonic, and it was not of God, because Jesus is standing from heaven. He has the full view of the hurt. He knows exactly what needs to be done. And he's looking out in his field of all these, the harvest that needs to come in, and that there's not enough harvesters. There's not enough farmers. There is not enough souls out there doing the work to bring in the harvest. And a lot of the work that he was showing me was missionary work, that missionary work, that people needed to be sent out to harvest these souls, and there was not enough hands in the field. And he was not going to overwork those that he had, because he was showing me, like, when you go out, there's witchcraft coming upon these missionaries. There's witchcraft coming up on the church. And to be a worker of Jesus Christ doesn't necessarily mean that you're a missionary and you're going out there. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a pastor going out there. It means that you're praying and you're backing these people that can be out there, that can stand, that you're prayer warriors, you're intercessors, you are providing food, you're the hands and the feet of Christ. And as a body, we work together. And there's different parts. The hands does different things. The feet does different things. The ears does different things. The mouth does different things. And together we work like that. So those people who are out in the field, who are standing to God, they need priors. They need people who are chefs, who can cook, who have the finances, who have resources. And so I want to say, based on the vision that I was having, he was showing me the harvest of the field. Like, there's a saying that Jesus can return any day now. That is not true. Jesus cannot return any day now. Jesus is looking at the harvest and at the field, and he's looking at how long, based on this harvest that I have, how long will it take to bring in the crops. Jesus will not return in 2025. Jesus will not return in 2026. And please don't look for Jesus in 2027. It's harvest time, and there are not many workers. So when revival is coming, revival will not just come all, like when revival come, because there's not enough harvesters, he has judged the timing of how to disperse his workers, so none of the harvest is going to be lost. Jesus is a farmer. He's a shepherd. He knows how to bring in his crop. He knows how to work his field. He knows how to send out his laborers. He knows their strength. He knows their weaknesses. He knows how many soldiers that he has, how many farmers that he has. He knows how many prayer warriors that he has. And based on his mapping, Jesus is the holder of the harvests. He is the one I want to say, look at him as a distributing center. He's sending out the workers. He's sending out the laborers. And he knows when they're tired, and he's pulling from the field and sending out again. Based on how he has mapped it, the return will not be 2025, will not be 2026. And please, don't look for him in 2027, because he's harvesting the field. He's looking for workers that are willing to labor to bring in the harvest. Jesus is all about the harvest. And until people start having a vision of the fields being empty, like for me, the field is unharvested. It was only the first 2 rows that the farmers was trying to bring in the harvest. There's rows upon rows. And when you think of the whole world and how many people are in the world, how many belongs to Christ, they don't know that they belong to Christ. but the word will go out to them. The missionaries will be sent to them, and they will come to know Christ. But when they come to know Christ, they cannot be dropped. They needed to be cleaned off, to be washed, to be nurtured, to be like the corn was being stripped. And as they were being stripped and all their dirt and all the gunk being taken off, then they were put in the storehouse. And the storehouse, they're no longer in the field, they're no longer in the sun. So they're not uprooted from the earth and just left on the ground to die. They're taken into a storehouse where the temperature is cooler, so that their lifespan can be expanded and can be maintained. Those are souls. So they need to be nourished. They need to be taken care of. They need to be fed. They need to be properly treated. And so Jesus has calculated all of this. And based on that, until the field is empty, yes, he's going to return soon. But soon, he wants the bride to know that he's returning. And because he's returning soon, you bring in the harvest first. When you bring in the harvest, all the workers now will be taken out of the field. Once the harvest is done, you will not be seeing workers in the field, because everything will be in the storehouse. Once everything is put in the storehouse, what do the farmers do? They celebrate. Once harvest season ends, the farmers, they celebrate. They cook. All the farmers, the farm workers, they have a meal. They're inside now. They no longer need to plow the field, because all the harvest is safe and sound, and they rejoice. They rejoice that the work is done, and they celebrate, and they have a meal. Jesus will have a meal with the workers in the field after the harvest is completed. But I just want to say, it was only the first 2 rows that the farmers was distributed, and the field extended so far as my eyes could see. The work that needs to be done is plenty. And because of the shortness of the workers, the Lord extended the time so that all the work can be done, and the workers are not overtired. They're not worn out. They can be rejuvenated. So I pray that we give up the Ouija board for those who are practicing sorcery in the church, looking at dates and trying to point Jesus. It's satanic. It's really occultic. It's no different from the witchcraft Ouija board. That's what we're doing, putting dots. And we're not looking at what Jesus is looking at. Jesus is overseeing the field. Jesus is overseeing the harvest, making sure none is lost. He cares about the crop. He cares about every soul. And this is my admonishment for today. So today is September 24th, and as we can see, we're still here, and we will continue to be here, because the field, we need to harvest the souls for Jesus Christ. We're his hands, we're his laborers, and we need to finish the work so we can all go inside together and celebrate that we have completed the harvest. All the crops, everything is safe inside, and none is lost. None is left beaten down by the sun. None is rotting on the ground. And so I pray that we may get it together, and come 2026, we're harvesting. As we see, I've seen the fire of revival. And the reason why, like, things are not going to be done in this section form is because the laborers are few. And we are praying for God to send more workers so that the crop can be taken in faster and quicker and efficiently, and none is lost. So please, let us just give up this time frame of when Jesus returned. Know that he will come soon, but he will come soon after the harvest is done, after all the crops have been brought in, after the field is empty and there's no more workers need in the field, because everything is now in his storehouse. So may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. Amen.